The Babraham Institute undertakes world-leading research into understanding the biology of how our bodies work, including what changes as we age and during disease. In Scientist Stories, we invite you to meet some of the scientists behind the research and discover more about what they do and how they got to be here. Welcome to Scientist Stories. I'm Jo, and I work in the Bioinformatics group at the Babraham Institute. I'm really interested in promoting science subjects and science careers. In this scientist story, I'm chatting to Tombi, an immunology PhD student at the Babraham Institute. So Tombi, can you tell me what your role is at the Babraham Institute?
So I'm a PhD student at Babraham Institute. I'm more of into research. I don't really take lectures and courses like that. It's a little bit of research, which to me is perfect because I get the flexibility of having to read ahead of time, research whatever I feel like is of interest to me.
So what is the research area of the group that you work in?
My project is on respiratory immunology. So I'm basically looking at respiratory infections. And this is actually perfect, especially during this COVID times. Yeah, looking at the lungs and how viruses affect the lungs is actually can actually pave a way for us to find some therapeutics for these viral pandemics. So I'm looking at how our body responds to these viruses, how they fight these viruses.
Tombi, I know that you've only recently started your PhD, but I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day work looks like.
The day-to-day is just mainly research. So mostly I wake up, I have to read a paper. I try to at least read a paper per day. So it's just a matter of getting into the habit of reading every day. And then afterwards, answering emails, replying, being on game each and every day, and then do a little bit of experiments. But obviously with this COVID-19, it's a bit slow, but when we don't have COVID, it's a lot more of experiment and a lot of analyzing data. So it's analyzing data, doing experiments and reading papers.
So you mentioned that you are doing some experiments at the moment. Obviously, we have limited time in the laboratories currently. What sort of experiments are you doing?
In my group, I think it's mainly using the flow cytometry, which is like this device that you use to see the cells or to count the number of cells. So it's a lot of flow cytometry stuff and qPCR, and also making sure that you're maintaining the tissues, you're growing the cells, you put them in a Petri dish and then you grow them.
What is it that you find particularly inspiring within your research area?
Well, I'll say because I grew up in Zimbabwe, in Africa, and I've seen many people dying because of dying to diseases that I feel like if research was done on them, we could have found a solution. So to me, it's just that immunology is closer to finding ways to help people because we're just studying how the body responds to these pathogens such as viruses, bacteria. It's just basically studying the human body, cellular processes that happens inside the human body. So to me, it's actually a perfect way of helping and also contributing to efforts of improving others' health. So that's basically like how I feel about immunology.
So for you, there's a very personal driver for why you're interested in.
Yes, it is.
Tombi, can you tell me a little bit about your background and the educational route that led you to be here at the Babraham Institute?
So I grew up in Zimbabwe. That's where I did my primary and secondary education. The place is okay, not bad, but there's a lack of research basically because it's just we don't have infrastructure in terms of research. So that's where I grew up. So I really wanted to get into research or at least something to do with medical sciences. So I then later moved to the US where I studied medicinal biochemistry in the hope of understanding the cellular processes that happens whenever a person takes drugs inside their bodies. So I really wanted to understand that aspect. All this was in the hope of trying to contribute so I can also help my country cover this gap that we are lacking, especially research. So at Arizona State University, where I did my medicinal biochemistry, I was involved in a couple of projects. The first one, I was working on cervical cancer project. In this project, I was looking at biomarkers for early detection of cervical cancer. I also worked on Alzheimer's disease as well, but thus I worked with Novartis Institute. So all these research experiences solidified my interest into going into a research career. That's why I applied for the post-grad education in research. Hence why I came here to the UK for my PhD program.
You mentioned that you studied medicinal biochemistry at university in America. So in terms of your secondary education, what did you study?
For me, we do the same as UK. So I studied math, chemistry, bio, and the other one was physics. So I did all the sciences for my A levels because I knew I wanted to be in the science field. So I had to take all the science classes so I can really expand the opportunities for me to get into. So that's how I did it.
Very excitingly, Tombi, you are a Gates Scholar. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it means to be a Gates Scholar?
Okay, so the Gates Foundation, they basically look at an individual who is willing to change the world, who have a good track record of their academics, how you are doing in science. So they just provide funding for students who want to continue with their graduate studies. I did a couple of things where I was helping the community. After I graduate, for instance, I worked as a science teacher in Arizona, where I was helping students to understand science in ways they can comprehend. So that was one way I was giving back to the community. And when I applied for the Gates, I put that in my application, which was really one of the things that they were looking for, someone who's willing to change the world.
Tombi, that's fantastic. And from what you've said so far, you are already well on the way to changing the world. You're definitely a guiding light to look out for in future.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you enjoy doing outside of science?
Outside the science, I'm a social entrepreneur. So at the moment, I'm working on providing quality education to girls in Zimbabwe. We provide education to these young girls. We are started with preschool girls from disadvantaged backgrounds. We provide them quality education, at the same time connect them to opportunities that they can continue their education. And then another piece that we're also trying to tackle is to help girls who are in high school, because when you're in high school, it's that's the period where you are also thinking of your future. You don't know what to do, so you need inspiration. So one of the things that I've been working really hard to is to mentor these girls, find girls who are also doing well in life, and also pair them with these high school students so they get the motivation to continue working on their dreams. So that's some of the projects I've been working on at the moment. And of course, I'm a singer and I'm also a dancer. So I quite spend a lot of time working on this as well.
Thank you, Tombi. I would wonder if you could possibly finish with any advice that you might have for students considering careers in science.
I would say go for it. You only have one life. So go for it. Don't be afraid to dream. Just go for your dreams and don't be afraid to dream. Just do it. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it as well.